I will always have bananas in my mind. Without further ado, let's go into the follow-ups that I gathered from this couple of episodes, from the latest topics.
Let's do that.
2 episodes ago, we talked about Homestuck 2. I introduced you to Homestuck 2. And since then, I learned a lot, so I thought it was worth a mention.
Okay.
Notably, like I mentioned last time, there had been drama, but I didn't get into the details, so now I got into the details. I found a wonderful 1-hour video that summarizes the whole thing. I'm gonna link in the description, but that nobody needs to watch if they don't want to. But the TLDR is essentially people are mad about the Kickstarter because the author did a Kickstarter for a game and then pretty much mismanaged the money because I mean you can't just produce a big game if you're one person. Like it's a job. It's a company.
I mean, you have Stardew Valley, which is only one guy, which is kind of an amazing game.
Like, I don't know. I understand that it's difficult to switch from being alone writing on a board, message board, to making a full-fledged game. So apparently there's been some, social media drama and so on. But the way I'm bringing this up in more details than it needs to is because lately, since last episode, something happened. This author released a new game that is personal project of his that has nothing to do with Homestuck. And I thought it was interesting to bring it up because it continues this trend of meta storytelling in a bit. Because the new game is called Psycholonials. It's on Steam if you want to check it out. It's a visual novel. And the story that I'm gonna basically spoil the outline of right now is about this girl who kind of accidentally starts a revolution and it goes out of hands, and at the end she just ends up running away, and she concludes that even if she had good ideals at the start, it went out of hand and the scale and people ruined it. And it's really fun because it's another layer of metaphor for Homestuck, and saying like he didn't expect it to take off the way it did, and the scale kind of brought drama and ruined it.
Also, you saying that when the author was making the game, he was thinking about like what happened in Homestuck, or like you just...
I believe it's conscious.
Okay.
If it's not, it's so clear that it's like a very red blinking light in his unconscious, let's say.
Okay. Okay, it's kind of transparent.
Well, I don't know. It's a very easy reading of it, let's say. So I don't know what the author had in mind when he wrote that.
So a light novel, for me a light novel is
visual
not a
novel.
Game. Oh, it's a visual. Oh, yeah, you say light novel. That's why I was a bit. So light novel, just for the audience, I guess. Like light novel is just a novel basically that is written in a light style.
Well, it has a lot of pictures. Both are from Japan.
Is that picture? No.
It usually has some pictures. Not a lot. It's not like a comic, but like every chapter or every other chapter you have an illustration.
I didn't know that because like the only light novel that I read was like Korean light novel.
I haven't read a lot either.
And there was no picture at all.
It's called light novel because it's supposedly easy reading.
Okay. And visual novel is like a choose your own adventure kind of thing, but with picture.
And it's on computers.
And on computers.
Or game consoles or whatever. It's a narrative game, let's say.
Okay.
I'm eager to see the next layer of meta is going to put on top of this. It's way more manageable than Homestuck. It's a normal visual novel of, I think, 8 to 10 hours, something like that.
That makes more sense.
Though he did want to really, like, they released it weekly, periodically, each chapter at a time, which was a bit weird, but why not?
I think like periodic release is coming back. Like Netflix is doing a 3-part movie, and they don't want to call it series or TV show. So they're doing a 3-part movie that will be released every week for 3 weeks. And they're super excited about it. They did all like marketing stuff. I think kind of fun. Going back full circle.
Yeah, I like weekly releases, but if it's less than less than 5, less than 10, it feels a bit pointless. Let's not go into that right now because we'll go into detail on another future episode about it.
Okay.
Instead, we need to talk about the big topic from last time, which is pantheon. So last episode was titled, "What would a modern pantheon be like?"
Yes.
Right. And I think there is a lot left to say. So I got a message from Eyaris saying that when he saw the title of the episode, he expected a lot of stuff about Marvel and Star Wars, which is kind of like what I expected when we went into it. But
Makes sense.
we went pretty much in another direction that was, I think, even more interesting. But
I think so as well. Yeah.
so Eyaris was sad to see no mention of Obi Wan Kenobi, for instance, which is kind of like the one good archetype of the mentor.
Easy.
Well, yeah, I guess. You'd say that Darth Vader is a good archetype of villain, but not Kenobi for mentor?
I think like I've watched Star Wars like once and I don't remember Obi Wan Kenobi. Not at all, obviously, but I kind of remember him, but like he's not a full-fledged archetype. Like,
yeah, I think the point of these archetypes is that you have heard of them even if you don't know the source material very much. So you're saying that's not the case with...
yeah, exactly. Like Darth Vader, I think like I can talk to anyone and they would be like, oh, I know he's from Star Wars and he's a bad guy. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi, I feel like he's a smaller character. A bit smaller character, but because he's a bit smaller, like I don't think he can be like an archetype type.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's fair, as demonstrated by the fact that I didn't immediately think of him, right? But
Yeah, I mean,
but he's pretty big. But I guess if you have to think of the archetype of the mentor, maybe you'll go more to Dumbledore or Gandalf. Like,
is Dumbledore a mentor though?
well,
Would you
he's
say
an
that?
archetype.
Would you actually say?
He's the same archetype as Obi-Wan Kenobi, I think.
Do you? Like he's not teaching anything like to Harry. Harry is more. I think like McGonagall is more of a mentor, or like.
Oh, yeah, but she's not an archetype.
Yeah. Or like Sirius Black is more of a mentor for Harry than Dumbledore. Dumbledore is just like not saying anything for like 6 books.
Obi-Wan Kenobi is very importantly the archetype of the wise old fool, hermit, recluse, whatever. So like,
oh, is he?
Sirius
Okay.
Black is not old enough.
Okay, no, I didn't. Okay, I have no. Actually, I have
You
no
don't know who that is.
Okay.
I mean, there is a lot of Star Wars movies that span over the whole life. I think Eyaris particularly meant the original trilogy.
Okay, so the old wise man.
In which he is a mentor, otherwise he's a
Yeah.
mentee.
I think like no, but like Yoda, isn't Yoda more of a mentor?
Yoda is a very good example, yeah. I don't know. I was going to say maybe he has less screen time. I don't know. I need to write back to Eyaris to ask him why not Yoda.
I think we should watch. I know we won't do that, but maybe we should watch Star Wars.
Wait, I've watched it a lot, you know.
Did you?
Well,
Actually.
more than I need to.
Yeah,
More than once?
More than once. Okay. I watched it only
Well,
once.
except the new ones, like the actual Star Wars.
Oh, I've watched the new one once as well. I think it's enough, but apparently not. I feel like Star Wars is always talked about as a good archetype movie of adventure movie, like space opera, not space opera, but like sci-fi
I think
movie.
it's often brought up as space opera.
And like I don't know, like maybe it's more important to culture than we think.
I don't think so, because I think it's extremely important to culture.
Okay.
Than you think, maybe.
Okay, but you don't think that like
I don't think it's a good thing. I think it's very fundamental. In a meta way, Star Wars is the archetypal movie.
archetypal new movie.
It's the god of the movies, of the good versus evil movies. I mean, it has the whole archetype of like resistance versus the evil empire, whatever. Yada yada. Another comment asked if we could extend this definition to the people that are very famous in any domain that everybody knows. So, for instance, the comment was about Tiger Woods in golf, or Michael Jordan is basketball, I guess.
What god would they be?
The god of golf or basketball.
Fair.
The god of...
But do we need a god for basketball?
Well, the question is not what we need. Well, I don't know. There's different questions. Like, do we need a god of basketball? I want to say obviously no. But do we have a god of basketball? Maybe yes.
I think it's fair. I don't remember what we said about like Michael Jackson or like Elvis Presley. About like were they like the god or a good representation of music in general or like pop music?
I think we said they were gods.
That
without precising.
Okay.
Entertainment. Modern day Dionysus.
I don't
Dionysi.
Yeah, I don't see the difference between Michael Jackson to pop music versus Tiger Woods to golf. I just think that like golf is less important.
Maybe golf is more niche?
Yeah, it's less important than music. But like sport is less important than music, no? For the human race.
That is true, but not obvious. And
isn't it obvious though?
Polemic.
Do you actually think it's polemical? Like, do you actually think that like if...
I think a lot of people would disagree.
Really? Do you really? Like, I don't think so.
You are so disconnected.
No, but like some guy, like, so, okay. People love music. Like, people actually love music. Can you imagine, like, a football game?
A lot more people have their lives built around their local sports team than their local artists.
But, like, there wouldn't be, like, these people also, like, go to the club, and there wouldn't be any club without music.
Yeah, the sports team is way more constituting of their identity and life than a single artist.
But not a single artist. Like, we're talking like sport versus music as a whole. And life would be very, very different without music. Not like without sport. Like, what would change?
Admittedly, but my point is just that I think that if you ask the question to everyone on Earth, like, would you rather live without sports or without music? I think more people will say without music.
That's so interesting. Like, I really, really want to see some numbers on that.
So, in other things that I wanted to mention, so there's a Chartword on Twitter saying that our actual de facto god and religion nowadays is health. And I think what they meant is that we sacrifice a lot of things in the name of health. I'm not sure I would agree that we've become fanatical about it. But
I think there's two things about it though. So there's like the COVID point of view where you're like, okay, for health, we are putting a pause on like what makes human life fun. And so you could say that like we actually think that like living, as in like not being dead, is more important than like living, as in like making new experience. And so that's a point of view. Like I thought about, like I've written about that for a confinement little book thing.
This is so like anti-lockdown 101. This makes me sad.
I mean, like, but like, why does it make you sad? Like, I think it's a question that like we should have asked more in an open debate kind of style, not in a like right now. Obviously, it was just like, oh, you're either like not thinking that like coronavirus is real, or like, you know, like it's like either you're dumb or either you're for the lockdown. But what I'm saying is like obviously we put health at all costs right now. That makes sense to me. That makes sense to you. That might be open to debate. I don't really care. But I think there's a second point of view about like health being like our new god is like well-being, like which has nothing to do with like health. But I do think that like in the last 5-10 years, like well-being is like, oh, don't be healthy, be like better than healthy. Oh, you need to, I don't know, take this like like superfood. You need to like meditate. You need to like do sport. And like it's not like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there was that kind of talk to be like more than healthy. And like that's a new thing, no?
Yeah, that's a very good point. So I wanted to bitch about how money has become our new god in capitalist society, but you made me realize that actually what is even more like pervasive and implicit, and which is like I think an extension of what you are saying, is that happiness is our new goal. You are very pressured to be happy, to not waste time, to be happy all the time, to feel good, to enjoy life. There is an extremely strong incentive in neoliberal capitalism to enjoy life. And I think what you are saying about well-being is how it manifests recently, let's say. Like,
it's also a way, I think, for people to feel better in a war, like in a situation that they shouldn't feel better about. Like, it's like, oh, be productive, work 80 hours a week. But if you microdose LSD and you meditate 5 hours a day, then like you can manage to like work 80 hours and be super productive for a capitalistic overlord. And I think like that's also like a counterpoint of maybe like this well-being market is more about being super productive in our like super capitalistic world more so than like being happy.
Yeah, I mean it's always multifaceted, right? You there is this implicit drive to be happy, but the reason is so that you consume products to be happy or that you're more productive at work. So it's hard to take it off of the whole context.
Yeah, but I think it's so pervasive that like I've done sports in the past, like I've meditated. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just, I would have never thought of myself, I don't know, 5 years ago, of someone that like would do sport or that would try meditation to feel better about myself. I would be like, how stupid that is. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And I've mingled. I've tried.
So what made you change?
Because I was like, I feel bad. I feel bad. And maybe if the science is true behind all of this, like that should make me feel better because there's some science.
It is true that like every therapist ever says, have you tried exercise?
Well, not psychoanalysis.
Okay. It's depression advice 101 is like, have you tried exercise?
Yeah, that's true. Have you tried exercise? Have you tried meditation? Yeah, I've tried all of this and it actually works.
Maybe depression is on you, God.
But I don't think like the thing it works because if you have the energy to work out, it means that like you're kind of there of being like better in your life.
Yeah, it's a cognitive science thing. Like if you pretend that you can get out of bed, you'll be able to get out of bed. Just fake it until you make it. I don't know. I guess a lot of people probably have endorphin when they have sports.
Yeah, I'm not wired. Like, I don't know. There's been a mistake. And like, I'm not wired that way.
Yeah, I don't think I'm wired that way either.
Like, I want reimbursement on that shit because I've never felt endorphin. Never. And I've tried for like 3-4 months to work out.
But I am willing to imagine that I'm not the default. In that area.
But clearly we're not the default because people love it. Like people are like, oh, I love doing sport. Like, and after that you feel so amazing. I'm like, after that I feel like shit. Like, what are you talking about? I want to die. I want to like sleep. Like, I'm not feeling good in any sense of the term of feeling good. It hurts everywhere.
There is not enough recognition for endorphin deficient people. We need an advocacy group. Yeah, but before we do move on to the next session, I want to quickly shout out other themes that have come up in discussion that I think are too good to ignore.
Okay.
First of all, the difference between mythology and pantheon. We focused on pantheon, but I guess what I had in mind more was mythology last time when I went into it. So that's good. How nowadays we tend to decorate rooms or houses with movie posters, so they act like little altars to these new gods. That was a really cute point. Another thing that was really lacking in our discussion was cats, because obviously cats have always been part of mythology and a very important part of every pantheon through the years. So what's up with that?
Are we sure we haven't talked about cats?
We talked about it offline, but not in the podcast.
Okay, sorry.
But I think it's fair because it's a bit out of the topic. It's not our new gods. They've always been there. They're our eternal masters. But
the continuous god.
And the last thing I want to say is something I forgot to tell you last time, and I thought a point that was really cute. I don't remember exactly in which context he was saying it, but Tom Ska was saying this on a video that I was watching a month ago or something. Mm-hmm. Was talking about how It's funny, like you can say that Jesus is like an important symbol because people make fan art of him. And so he was like, oh, people make fan art of me, so I'm like Jesus as a joke or something like that. And I thought it was an interesting point, even though a lot of religion have a controversial link to fan art. But it's, I don't know, interesting point, food for thoughts.
Just one of the follow-up, and like we still haven't talked about it, and maybe like we don't have time and it's not the place to talk about it, but like I think it's kind of fun that like we haven't talked that much about money. Like it's always a passing thought. Like we talk like right now like just a bit about money. Like during the full episode we haven't talked about money at all. And it feels like so obvious that it is like kind of the new god or kind of the... Is it the new one? Has it always been there?
So first of all, it was on my note for both the episodes and the follow-up. I think like it's my go-to answer when you say like what is a new god, and there's even a name for that, is Moloch, the money worshipped as a god. I do think it's relatively new, like it goes in par with the Industrial Revolution and the rise of neoliberal capitalism. And ever since the fall of Berlin Wall, like then USSR, etc., it seems like there is no real alternative, so it's even more prevalent. As for why we didn't talk more about it, maybe it's because it's both very obvious and very complicated. Like there's a lot of things to say, and it has already been said dozens of times, I guess.
No.
But I don't know. And maybe we're not as well versed in economy as we would like to be to talk about this.
For sure.
But I agree that it's my go-to response when you ask me what is our new pantheon is capitalism. Capitalism realism, as Mark Fisher says. Like, capitalism established as the permeating truth from which there is no escape or alternative.
This episode's brought to you by Entropy. Tired of feeling like nothing ever happens, like you're stuck in a rut? Well, Entropy is the solution for you. Entropy will give you that much needed push towards literally anything. And contrary to competitor motivation methods, it has a 100% success rate guarantee.
So by the way, lately I've spent a lot of time looking at contemporary artists and especially computational art, everything that has to do with programming, technologies, whatever. I don't know, to see what's out there. I found some lists and I was like, okay, let's see every portfolio one by one.
Where did you find the list?
Where?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I Googled like AI artists or something like that.
Okay. Amazing.
How did this whole thing start? How did my whole descent into the abyss start? I don't know. It started with a YouTube channel talking about contemporary art, and then I was like, oh, contemporary art is nice, but I'm more tied to technology, semantics, etc. Because the YouTube channel was really about biotech. We'll talk about it some other time. But anyway, the point here is that I'm going to talk to you a little bit about one of my favorite artists for today, and maybe some other times we'll visit some other favorite artists. I found a lot of interesting stuff. But the one I wanted to talk to you about today is Sam Lavigne, an artist based in New York. Born in 1981, apparently. Okay. Amazed that I remember that because it's not in my notes. One notable thing I want to say about him is that he's also a professor and notably taught at the School for Poetic Computation, which is a school in New York that comes back a lot in my research.
Okay.
So let me introduce you to a few works by Sam Lavigne that hopefully I will not forget to link in the descriptions. The first I want to talk about is a work from 2014 called Big Data Pawn Shop, which is an online installation. So this is basically a dropshipping site. Like he basically not invented dropshipping, but he was an early adopter of dropshipping. It's an automatically generating the store, offering various products like t-shirts or mugs or hats or whatever. And the little twist in it is that the thing that he automatically prints on them is leaked NSA documents, like various NSA documents.
That's it.
Big data pawn shop. I like the concept.
It's very clear what it is. So is it actually...
So it's an actual shop that is still working today.
So I can go buy like an NSA document printed on a t-shirt, basically.
It raises interesting questions about copyright, by the way, because I don't think he has the right of copyright of these images. But if they are leaked NSA documents, I don't know.
Are they actually copyrighted? Because like NSA, you could say is like a government thing. The government can't really...
I think this is way outside of our legal expertise.
Is it? We really like. I think like I know that there's actual master degree on copyright law, so we can't really be well versed into copyright law, and even less so in the state and in France and in the world. But like I really would like to be more well versed in copyright law because like it comes up very very often.
It seems too complicated. I think like the fact that the store is still up demonstrates that it's not too copyright violating. If it was leaked Disney documents, it would already be shut down. And the shutting down part of the store is the real work of art. So, second one. There's plenty of work. I'm going to go through my favorites until we run out of time. 2015, a website called Street Views, which is an inventory of physical location of houses of people who have legal, political, or social status that are in any way remarkable but invisible to a casual observer. So it highlights houses owned by US Congress people, privately run prisons, for-profit universities, this kind of stuff. Real estate owned by the US government.
I don't understand at all, not even a bit. So it's picture of houses?
Of locations, houses owned by notable legal, political, or social status, high social status people that are in the shadows.
But what does that mean in the shadows?
U.S. congressman, like you don't think about it. Or privately run prisons is a good example. Like it's an atlas of every privately run prison, U.S. congressman address, and second houses, etc.
Okay, like what's the link between for-profit prisons and like congressman houses? That's what I don't really understand.
I guess both can be seen as the underbelly of the system. Like the congressman, it's all things that should not be, that have no need to be so tied in money and that end up owning real like giant real estate beats. So it's a way to denunciate luxury, to be more transparent about transfer of funds.
No, but I do understand like for-profit prison, which is like a whole subject in itself, and like a bit like I don't see how that came to be completely honest, but what completely another subject. But like house of congressman feels a bit weird. Like I think like obviously it should be public, like what they own, but like picture of it, like I mean like they can own a flat, no? That seems fair.
I don't think that's the spirit of US congressmen. We're talking like secondary, third, fourth houses here.
Okay.
If they owned a flat, I don't think that would be an art project.
Look at me, all naive. Okay. I don't know why, but like I thought people were good for a moment.
Yeah, I don't think like the Communist Party of the US has a lot of entries on this.
Okay. So it's basically like rich people houses today. Look at how rich they are. Maybe we should do something about it.
There might be bribes or whatever, this kind of stuff.
Okay, that's fun.
In a street view, so that you can really see like if you're there.
Oh, so you can actually see like how luxurious it is.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Okay, the next one I think is going to be less controversial for you to integrate, I think. It's called White Collar Crime Risk Zones, a project from 2017, an online mobile app, etc., etc., which uses machine learning to predict where financial crimes are most likely to occur. So it's a heat map of crimes, like you see many in the news or whatever, but it's about financial crimes. So Manhattan, for instance, is bright red, which I think is a really nice reversal of subversion, let's say, of an established trope.
Yeah, it's like Minority Report, but for manager.
Yeah, so no wonder that Manhattan is really red. But this app is especially cute because it tells you like the kind of embezzlement, fraud, whatever, like is projected by the algorithm. It's really nice.
It actually sounds very, very fun.
And of course, it's to beg the question, why are those crimes handled differently than other kinds of crimes?
Because they have a lot of money.
Because the money.
The money. That is fun. I to be honest, like with the 3 projects that you shared, I do find it very, very fun. Like as an art project, I do find them a bit on the nose.
Too obvious?
Yeah.
That's fair, but maybe it's also my bias of choosing the ones that make me laugh the most. But anyway, the next, if you want something more, I guess, subtle and less directive, maybe you like the next one.
Okay.
Then, let me shuffle things around. It's called New York Apartment. It's a project from 2020. It combines the totality of New York real estate listings into a single website. So it lists the total sum price, total sum square meters, total descriptions, and all the pictures, and they try to make a 3D model of the total space. What does it mean? I'm not sure. But it's really fun.
That is a fun project.
All of these projects is like, if you don't call them art, like what do you call them? It's just like, it defies depiction, kind of, which by default makes them art.
Yeah. Maybe you're right. It's not that expensive, to be honest.
You're gonna buy all the apartments in New York?
No, but actually, it's only 43 billion.
I understand every word you say, but it makes no sense to me. My brain doesn't comprehend this kind of numbers.
No, but I think that might be a project that shows how fucked up billionaires are.
Yeah. I think that's the primary reading.
I think viscerally, it's very hard to make people understand how much 1 billion is. People don't actually grasp it. And so I don't know, I have a list of metaphors for people to grasp it. The new thing that I came across, Mark Zuckerberg owned 2%, $2 out of every one. Mark Zuckerberg owned $2 out of every $100 that all millennials get in the States, which I think it's kind of fun numbers. But I think saying Mark Zuckerberg could buy all the flats in New York shows how
that's a good way to look at it.
How fucked up it is. So here Johan presented a 4th piece of art, which I had a very strong reaction to. I don't think that the debate that followed that reaction was very necessary or very constructive or very interesting to hear. And I ended up defending a point about art that I really don't believe, which is the amount of work that you put on a piece has any impact on the actual value of the piece, which is a thought that I really, really disagree with. And Johan tried to convince me otherwise, which I was already convinced. I was just very emotional about it, and I don't know why. But here's to show that art can provoke a lot of emotion, and maybe that's the whole point. So sorry for that censorship, and let's go back to the podcast.
So if you had to pick a favorite, it would be the New York Apartment, maybe?
But absolutely.
By far.
By very far. The New York Apartment was amazing. I think it's an amazing representation. It's an amazing thought.
we chit-chatted because this is one of our conversation episodes, but a conversation episode implies a dialogue. So I guess please find us on Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, Gmail, Not Daily Podcast, all in one go. Leave us a review on iTunes and everywhere. Try to let us know you exist and you'll be featured in our conversations because we'll be so happy. Thank you.
See you.
Not too. The ending is going to be me exploding with cringe.